Welcome to another episode of the Lone Recruiter Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Clemenson, and if you're a recruiter, out on your own, or just lacking general guidance or mentorship, you've come to the right place. Our episodes are designed to give you the motivation, the advice, and the strategies you need to become the very best lone recruiter. So join us, grab a cup of coffee, and let's take your desk to another level. Now, today, I want to give you 3 ways you can get your client to interview your candidate today. All the activities we do as a recruitment agency or as a recruiter, in terms of finding candidates, getting briefs, it all leads to getting interviews. And if we're not getting interviews, what are we doing? Okay, and how often have you taken a brief from a client and you've taken a really detailed job spec and you've gone, you know what, that's a fantastic job spec, and you've got off the phone, you've hung up, half an hour brief, you've got your notes, and you go, you know what? Let's go. That one excites me. I already know exactly the sort of person who's going to want to take that. It's going to be hard to find, but it's got some really good information here. Great team culture, great money, brand's good. It's got everything going for it, right? We know those briefs that you just get super pumped about. You go and you do you call your favorite candidates, or you call your network, you get onto your database, you hit LinkedIn, you put your ads up, and then you get that magical unicorn candidate. You get that beautiful candidate. Oh, thank you, recruitment gods. We got it. You go to all that effort. You interview the candidate. Oh my God, they're active, they're activated, they're looking, they're keen, they love the company you're representing. It all lines up. Like, how often have you been there? And you go, okay, cool. You interview, you do it, you get your notes together, you pop the package together, you've got consent from the candidate, they want to work with you exclusively because you're the best recruiter in the world. Oh my God, the stars are aligning. You write the email, you put the email together, you put the CV in there, you put your terms in there, you highlight the best bits in the email, you click it to the client, you go send. You feel like an absolute legend. You get up, you do a little dance. You're already shopping. You're already in your mind going, I know exactly what I'm going to spend with that commission check. You go off, you get a coffee from the cafe, bit of a spring in your step. You go and high five a few people, maybe even let out a big hoo-ha, woohoo! And then nothing. Nothing. The client goes cold. Okay, no. They must be in a meeting. That's fine. Another hour passes. Nothing. Hello? Mr. Client, where are you? I say, you know what? I'll call. Hey, Mr. Client, that brief you gave me? I've got a CV in your inbox. Oh, yeah, I'll get to it. Okay. Have a look. They're very good. Try and book it in. Try and get an interview. And then they just don't commit. What's going on? Now, let's not go into too much detail what else it might be, but we've all been there before. And sometimes our enthusiasm and excitement for the recruitment process and getting something going doesn't translate to a client because they've got other competing agendas. I mean, yes, they do need to recruit this thing, but they've actually got a real job outside of recruitment that they need to get done too. So their actual tasks, or what is their actual job? The recruiting is to support them and to make sure their business grows and keeps their work flowing. But the reality is it doesn't pay them to, that's not true. It absolutely pays them to get the right person in the right job. But you know what I mean. They can get very distracted. So sometimes we need to give some call to action, some real crisp logics for our clients so that they do commit to an interview. And I want to give you 3 that seem to work pretty well for me. And they're authentic and they create real urgency. And, we all know time kills deals. So it is very important to now getting the interviews as quickly as possible. So let's go. So the first thing I want you to check is that, are you being specific with your interview availability by the candidate? Not asking the client when they're free to meet, not saying sometime next week they're free, but actually saying, hey, the candidate has Thursday afternoon between 3 and 5 o'clock available to meet with you. Can you do that? It's a beautiful question. And I just made up a time. It's a beautiful question. You might not even have that number from the candidate. But what you're doing is going from asking the client, do they want to interview, to assuming they want to interview and basically leapfrogging that and saying, they're available at this time. Can you meet with them then? If they say, no, I can't. I've actually got something on. How about this time? Great. You've actually got the interview. It's booked. Now you've got a time from the client. Go and book that in. So the first thing is be very specific with the candidate's availability. It really will help. Nail down your client's calendar. It will make them commit to an interview a lot quicker. And And if there are any issues with the CV or there are any issues with what your client's thinking, they'll hesitate and say, hang on, well, tell me a bit more about this. They might not want to commit to that interview if there are issues. But assuming it is the golden candidate that we all hoo-ha'd and celebrated earlier in this episode, then they're gonna bite and they're gonna give you their calendar and we're gonna lock them down. There are some other ways of doing that. If they don't bite on that in terms of being specific, this is still the first tip, is that you could even say, I've got a lot of people going away at the moment, so you could say, look, the candidate's away next week. I'd love to get them in this week. Have that first interview. If it goes well, you've got time for a second, or at least you've met them face to face. And if you need to do it over the phone to follow up with some questions, then at least you've had that face to face meeting. And or highlight any other time pressures that might be there. Maybe the client's got time pressures. Maybe the candidate's got work trips or site commitments or work commitments that they can't get out of. And just by highlighting that and saying, look, the next 10 days is actually quite busy. If you can get in the next couple of days, that would be wonderful. What does your schedule look like? Just nailing down their schedule and being very specific with availability is going to help you gain an interview. So that's the first one. 2, another way you might be able to get a client to interview a candidate or lock in a time today is leaning on the reputation, right? So a lot of the times, if you're a good recruiter, you're actually quite actively headhunting. Okay, so you've taken a great brief from a great client, they're giving you all the details. You've probably, most likely, gone out, picked up the phones, emailed or whatever, and headhunted a candidate for this role. So I think you lean into the reputation side of things and say, look, get the client on the phone. Hey, I know you haven't had a chance to look at that CV yet. I just want to remind you that this is a headhunted candidate. They're very keen. They are active, but I tapped them on the shoulder and said, your opportunity exists. We would love to have a chat with you and set up a time to meet properly and go through that. And they've said, that sounds great. Let's go. And now you're stalling. It's just not a great look. So if you can you what does your schedule look like? Let's try and lock something in, or at least start those conversations so that the candidate feels those warms and fuzzies. Because at the end of the day, enthusiasm to interview does set the tone for what it's like working with you guys and the excitement for them and their skill set for the role. So yeah, you got to approach a headhunter candidate a little bit differently to an applicant, and just remind your clients of that. That's another one. So just in terms of their reputation and it is somewhat on the line when it's a headhunt. And the third one, and we all know how to do this, but it can come off really cheesy if you do it wrong, is bringing in competition, right? Competition on the candidate, competition on the time to meet. It's real. We know that. We know that competition is there, whether it's another recruiter, whether it's another candidate, or whether they're looking at other options themselves as a candidate. There's always competition, but highlighting it still needs to be done in a tasteful way. And so I mentioned before about the reputation being a headhunt, and they are likely going to be a headhunt. So I'd be saying, in one way of handling the competition side is saying to the client, look, I have headhunted them for you. At this stage, I haven't taken them to market. They're kind of keen to see what else is out there, but equally very keen on your role. So if you can't commit to a time, I'm going to have no choice. I'm going to have to take them to market, but I'm giving you first bite of the cherry. So let me know what you want to do. Do you think you want to be able to see them later this week? That's a nice way of saying it. You could also sort of make it a little bit more about the candidate and saying, look, they've got interest in this role. They're really keen to meet with you, but they are looking at other opportunities and they're progressing. They're at first interview stage at the moment. So if you are interested and you just are too busy to lock something in because you want to be there at that first interview stage with everyone else. You don't want to be lagging behind processes, because then you're going to start to feel pressured at the end of the process, and you're not going to like that. So let's just get in the mix. Let's see if you like them. Let's see if they like you, and then we can at least we're working in parallel with these other opportunities. We've got a red hot chance of getting them on board should we want to do that. And another competition angle is saying basically there's another recruiter in this candidate's ear trying to convince them to go to X, Y, Z. They're not, they're taking it with a grain of salt. They're really keen to meet you, but let's go FaceTime with him. Let's give him, one-to-one sort of perspective on your brand, the role, what you guys are trying to do before that recruiter really gets into their ear and starts to sway them elsewhere. Can you see them tomorrow? Simple. So, yeah. There's probably a ton more other ways that you might be able get an interview out of your client. And if you've got any of those, please put them in the comments, drop them in the comments below, shoot me a message, share it with the network. Fantastic. That's all we have time for you today. If you got anything out of today's episode, please give us a 5-star rating, give us a 5-star review. It really helps us. I get a kick out of it, and it helps us grow. If you want to join the mailing list, hello@thelonerecruiter.com. There's a place where you can just throw your email in and you get supplementary material for not all the episodes, but the ones that do have that. So jump on. You'll never miss a beat. That's all we have time for you today. As always, have an amazing day, and may all your deals come true.